For the last 50 years, politics has become nothing but a battlefield, and we the people are over it. It's time to restore our republic. Did you know that there are patriots who are suing the political elites on behalf of the American people? We have started a movement called M90USA, and to hear our story, tune in to the No, It's About the Republic show. Find out about our movement and how you can get involved to help retake our great republic. Thank you.
Okay, that's the keep it simple, so stupid moment. Yes,
All right.
yes, 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 yes. Everyone.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
now, let's say Washington Post.
Washington Post.
Oh, you've been trolled like crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's watching the trolls geek out over Paul is amazing.
Oh, it's fun.
It's a sport.
It's pretty funny.
It's fun.
It's a sport.
Especially knowing the guy, it's like, okay, they don't know who they're talking about.
They really don't. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Remember when there was a salon, like the salon.com guy that was constantly emailing me?
Roger Sullenberg.
Well, he was posting about me, but he
Oh.
all the time. But then he had some colleague. He kept emailing me ridiculous questions about the lawsuit, and I just finally stopped. At that point we were representing Latinos for Trump and Blacks for Trump,
Right.
and I said, oh, now I have a question for you. I'm writing a motion tonight. I'd like to get a comment for it actually, because that's what I always do to you. Oh, we're gonna print this story. We need a comment. So I just flipped it around on him. I need a comment. So I said, what's your position and Salon.com's position as to why a bunch of Black and Latino voters would want to support Donald Trump? And I goes, oh, that cliche. Well, it's really, you're the one that signs the pleading, so it's really you. And I was like, okay, well, why don't you put that in your story first of all? My question to you is, did you mean that I am just unilaterally acting without the approval of my clients, or that they can't actually think for themselves? And, he'd been emailing me relentlessly all night, and then all of a sudden it stopped. It just stopped.
Yeah, I guess that'll shut you down.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit on kind of where this lawsuit began, as far as you brought up Blacks for Trump and Latinos for Trump, who are no longer plaintiffs in this. Where are we right now?
Okay, yeah.
On all that.
That whole thing was very unfortunate, because I was really proud to represent groups of Blacks and Latinos. Apparently everybody in the media thinks I'm some vicious racist, which is ridiculous. I can't tell you how many grievances I've got with the Texas bar saying I'm some kind of white supremacist, which is just unbelievable if you look at the history of my life.
Yeah, tell us about the wedding.
Oh, yeah, I did. Before the show, I just think it's so funny that people are like, oh, you're such a racist. It's like, first, I have real, actual, close Black friends in my life, and apparently if you say that, you're a racist, you're
some of my best friends are.
Yeah, that you're trying to impose your whiteness on them, and you're colonizing them or something like that. It's just unbelievable.
Wait, colonizing them?
Yeah, have you not heard this term?
No, I haven't heard that one.
You really
colonizing?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Do people really understand what that word means? Colonize them?
Oh, they make all these words up.
As you're taking over their body and building houses on the backs of them or something? What the F is that all about?
It's an analogy to, they're saying you're like, they use this against Amy Coney Barrett, because she adopted some, Black kids.
Oh, in other words, so she showed children who wanted some love and attention and gave them structure in their life and gave them the ability to succeed in life regardless of their exterior.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's stupidity. Racism. What's really funny is people who throw the race card out there have to be some of the most lowbrow people on the planet, because when you think about it, it's like you're complaining about racism, but you're using race as your basis of your argument, your statement. So you're a racist.
No, I had people call me a racist, and my dad was Black, so.
Oh my god.
Go figure.
Yeah. That's always the funniest thing. I mean, but
It's like, you have no idea who
yeah,
you're
they
talking
say
to,
you're colonizing them because you're trying to impose your whiteness on them.
Now,
I
what's
think
going to
that's what that
happen is,
term
since you
means.
said that, people are going to wonder why you're on the right side of my shoulder here when you're sitting at the table. Are you this like the back of the bus thing or what?
Yeah, well.
Now you've made me paranoid that I'm going to be trolled because somehow I've abused you or colonized you. I've colonized John. I've colonized John.
You haven't colonized me. I don't do anything I don't want to do.
Oh my God.
Evil. You're basically Christopher Columbus. I mean, that guy's straight up evil.
Yeah, next thing you know, we're all going to get smallpox. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow.
I already had COVID-19. So
me too, twice.
Okay. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Your relief is always what is getting attacked by the trollsters.
Yeah, it's the remedy.
Wait a second, Mikey. I still don't like you. You're a troll. You're a troll on Twitter. You're Mikey. Mikey
who's
Dunham.
that? I don't even know who this person is.
That's what's beautiful, Mikey. He doesn't even know you exist. That's what's beautiful about it. You got 40 freaking trolls against this man, and he doesn't even know you exist.
I only read a small fraction of that stuff, and it's purely for entertainment and just to get a few comments. And just to show them how dumb they are. I mean, the comments are so stupid. I just sit there and laugh.
Well, Mike Dunham is evidently an attorney that likes to sit on podcasts and do 3.5 to 4 hour long podcasts doing law-splaining about lawsuits that obviously knows nothing about. Because the only thing he can attack you on Twitter and his, I think, 160 different micro attacks on you tweets.
160?
Oh, yeah, he's nuts.
Oh, my gosh.
That's why I picked him out, because he was so over the top.
Wow.
And he was deleting them as I was pulling him out. It's like, because I was saying stuff about it. But anyway,
That's hilarious.
We've warned people that we troll back.
Yes.
We troll back. Anyway, he was attacking you over your relief. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about the relief. Let's talk about why we need to get rid of the 117th Congress and we need to toss the Biden administration right now.
Yeah, okay. So, this is just, it's ridiculous because the only thing anybody can say about the lawsuit, really, that I've seen are two things. One, the remedy I'm asking for until trial, just to preserve the status quo, is too big. It's too ridiculous. It's, oh my gosh, you're trying to replace the whole government and all this stuff. And two, that I made a reference to Lord of the Rings in the previous lawsuit, literally like 5 weeks ago, and people are still talking about that, even though it's not even in our current lawsuit.
What was the relevance of that? That's one of my questions here. So just to clarify, so when people do hear that garbage, they understand that there was a point to it. It wasn't just you fantasizing about Lord of the Rings.
I'll get to that one. So I'll explain the remedy, which, okay, so this is just injunctive relief 101, people, for all you lawyers out there that think you're so smart. So you understand that when you ask for injunctive relief, you're preserving the status quo until trial. Okay, wow, what a concept, the status quo. What does that mean? That means the state of events when the harm happened, or as far back as you can go, basically. And so here, what happened was all 50 states violated federal election laws pretty clearly with the way that with their actual procedures, the way they wrote them up, the changes they made to their procedures.
That was not just Biden and Trump. That was all ballots.
All ballots.
All federal ballots.
All federal ballots.
Okay, he heard him say it. All federal ballots. This is the attorney arguing the lawsuit. All federal ballots were unconstitutional because the states violated law.
Could you do me a favor and just define the word all? What does that mean?
Me or him?
Every single one?
Me?
I think.
All. Yeah.
Me? All?
Yeah. It means all.
Paul, what's the definition of all?
I would say every single one.
Okay, there we
All
go.
right, that
Yeah.
works.
We have an established agreement. We all agree?
Right.
We agree?
Yes.
Okay, we've compromised here. We've agreed on the word all. It means every single one.
So last time I checked, we had 50 states. I know there's talk about Puerto Rico and D.C. They're not states. But we did have violations in those voting districts as well, because they do send delegates to Congress. But not only the Help America Vote Act was violated, all 50 states. The 1960 Civil Rights Act. And, the simplest way to understand this, you got, I think the most salient examples that I can think of are you're required to preserve all records that come into your possession if you're an election official. All records and papers. That's everything, right? And
that's the 1960
that's
Civil
the
Rights
1960 Civil Rights Act.
Right.
And the 1965 Act makes it a crime if you don't.
That's right. Well, the 1960 Act does too. And if you look at the next provision after that provision, it says you can go to jail for a year and be fined. I think it's like $1,000.
What's funny is the 60 Act is a year for $1. The 65 Act is 5 years and $10,000. $10,000.
Right. Yeah. So they.
So I guess you're going to be adding that to the lawsuit.
Yeah, we're just starting to look at that just now. But, I mean, just a simple example that everybody can understand. When these ballots came in, the mail-in ballots, they threw away the envelope, and that has a postmark on it. And that postmark is very relevant evidence if you're trying to audit a vote to determine.
And the 60 Act specifically was designed to be able to audit all types of voting to protect
Information.
No, to black voters.
And that's not
That's why it
yeah.
came up. It was to black voters. It was
Absolutely.
your dad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was designed to do that. And the thing about it is, it's not an issue about race. It's an issue about audit.
That's right. Yep.
And that's the beauty of this. When you sit there and talk to all the stupid lawyers, well, the ones out there that think they're brilliant only on Facebook or Twitter and that other stuff. The guys that never made the $500 an hour, I guess, what you're talking about.
Right.
Never worked for the big firms, never this other stuff. They probably graduated in the lower 2/3 of the class or the bottom of the class and barely passed the bar. It seems like there's a lot of those on social media that are thinking they're, what's the Dershowitz? They're the social media version of Dershowitz.
Well, they're in an echo chamber. They have nobody that pushes back. They just say these things with impunity, and then everybody's like, "Oh, yeah."
Everybody jumps on and agrees with them because they think they're smart.
Yeah, the man in the arena comes
One question
into play.
I had was there's several people out there saying that you're misinterpreting HAVA. How are you not misinterpreting it?
Well,
I mean, they're saying that
how are they saying I'm misinterpreting?
Well, they're just saying that you're misreading the law. That it doesn't say. I know.
I guess those people
I'm just
can't
playing
read.
devil's advocate here. Okay?
That's fine. I'll address that.
I just want to see if we can clarify how exactly HAVA has been violated.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, I was about to get to that. So, and I just talked about the 1960 Act, throwing away the envelopes, and also records that come into the machine. The procedures call for them to be automatically deleted in many cases. That's a record that you have to preserve for an audit. And I was going to say too, it's not just me saying that was the purpose of the 1960 Act. You look at the case law; it specifically says this law was to preserve evidence for an audit.
Wait a second. Case law?
Yeah, case law.
Case law. Ooh. Case law means other people have argued this before, and it was found out this is to be true.
And they won.
Yeah.
And that's the point here. And they won. Please go over the Help America Vote Act portion of it, because I'm dying to hear you listen and say this one.
So I think the easiest one to understand is this is Section 303 of the Help America Vote Act. And by the way, when we say the states have to follow federal election law, this is one of the laws they have to follow. And this is, again, not me talking, this is the Constitution of the United States.
And this is all states, right?
All states.
Okay,
Article 1, Section 4, read it, people, specifically says that the states have to follow federal election law. I mean, it is like clear as day. Supreme Court, it's very, very clear. And you can't make a non-laughable argument to the contrary, just put it that way. So with HAVA, I think the easiest one for people to understand would be when you vote by mail, it requires you to put a copy of some form of ID in there. Now, it doesn't have to be your driver's license. It can even be a utility bill, a bank statement. It specifically says that.
And that's for in 303. That's for first-time voters.
Yeah.
First-time voters in a federal election.
Yep.
First-time voters who have registered by mail.
Yep.
There's like 6 or 7 criteria that people had to do this.
Yeah.
And when you look back to 1960. The Civil Rights Act. Why the Civil Rights Act of 1960 is so important is because the state or the election officials who are supposed to be maintaining all the papers and all the records, they broke all this stuff up. If it came in, they scanned only the ballot, and then they got rid of the ballot too.
Yeah.
So they got rid of everything. And the fact of the matter is the record retention side of HAVA mirrors 1960, doesn't it, in Section 305 or something?
I think that's, yeah. There is, I can't remember exactly the section number, but it's in there, yes.
So when you're these village idiots that get on the keyboard, I wish all the PC companies would start increasing the price of computers so we get less trolls on the internet. Okay?
That won't work. They'll just go to the library.
No, they can't. They just can't figure out how to read. Anyway, obviously, when you look at this, the people are saying misinterpreting the law wrong. They're completely wrong in all aspects because it's so literally black and white, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you got another example that it's easy to understand. You had a lot of, you put in, when you do a touch screen, has to print out a ballot. that shows all the names of the people you voted for, and you have to have an opportunity to look at that and correct it. And we know that, a lot of states' procedures didn't provide for that. So, and then the provisional voting, you go in, you have to sign a specific affidavit. There's a whole process you have to go through. A lot of the procedures they used didn't follow that either. I mean, there's so many.
And then the drop boxes where they were supposed to be monitored, and somebody was supposed to ask you, "Is this your first time?" And then if it was,
that's a Section 301 violation, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So isn't there a violation in Section 2 something where the machine records, the machines when they print out reports?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this in the last episode a little bit, where Nate Kane, who's another expert witness, pointed out that when you go online, you go to M90USA.com, you can read these manuals, and these manuals talk about reports they print out.
Mm-hmm.
And Nate pointed out that none of the state retention requirements included those reports, mid-process election reports. What's your position on that? So those records should have been retained, correct?
Well, yeah, because that is a record you would use to perform an audit. I mean,
and they weren't maintained.
They weren't maintained.
Right. And
that's
it says that all the records are supposed to be maintained. Any of them.
So it doesn't matter if you're correct me if I'm wrong here. If you're sitting here talking the mail-in ballots on one side of your argument, you say, well, let's talk about the machines. That really doesn't matter at all. But all these processes come down to one simple issue: failure of record retention.
Correct. Yeah.
And all of them are mandated in the Help America Vote Act, the National Voters Registration Act, the Civil Rights Act 1965, and the Civil Rights Act 1960. So this is like a sandwich of violations.
So now, what might cause it?
Wait, am I wrong in that?
No, you're not wrong. And, I think a lot of people would say, oh, well, that record doesn't matter. You don't need it. Well, guess what? You don't get to pick and choose which parts of a law you follow.
And copies don't count.
Yes,
well,
exactly
unless
right.
you're a Democrat. I'm sorry.
Stop. I'm going to tase you next week if you do that. Okay.
Where are you going to tase him, Steve?
No, not on this mic. Okay. The fact is that
You heard it, folks. He threatened me.
No, it wasn't a threat. It's a promise. That was not a threat. It was a statement, and a statement is a promise.
Okay,
So you got a lawyer here. He'll rule on that here in a minute.
Right.
We're joking around here. Paul and I, we were talking earlier today and talking about the left-right paradigm, okay, where people, when they think they're a little progressive, they automatically default to being Democrats, and people who are a little bit conservative, they automatically default to Republicans. And John and I were going to do this thing on the political relevancy of this, but we're going to save that to next week. Is it your opinion that both the Republican enterprise, not the party, the corporation, and the Democratic enterprise, have they acted in a criminal manner or an unlawful manner, in your opinion, as a lawyer?
In an unlawful manner? I mean, by influencing the election procedures as they occurred in this election.
So that would be abuse of office?
I mean, I'm not going to go around accusing people of abuse.
No, it's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. Not writing a brief here. It's just we're three guys sitting on talking mic, looking at this in a nuanced manner.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going out on a podcast.
I'm not going to publicly accuse somebody of criminal behavior.
No, you didn't. I didn't say it. My question was not, tell me exactly how many crimes Nancy Pelosi's committed. I didn't ask that question. The question was, in your opinion, I got to put you on the hot seat from time to time. I like you, but I still have to put you on the hot seat.
That's fine with that.
In your opinion, did the two corporations, did they do something wrong? Did they act in a manner that would be considered or could be considered in a criminal review? Is this something let me cut it to the chase. Should the Department of Justice be looking into these two corporations and how they've operated in conduct of this election?
I mean, I think that you could say that there probably was some fraud committed there. I've always said our case is not really about fraud, but everybody who, the reason we've added entities like the DCCC and the DSCC, too many acronym letters.
Yeah, and the RSCC and the RCC and the RNC and the DNC and the DNS and all these guys.
It's because these actors who are politicians, I just say actors, they did something that makes them liable to our plaintiffs, is what I mean, acted through those entities. So really the entities provide kind of a cover for them to do essentially whatever they want, and they really shouldn't be able to get away with that.
Well, the lawsuit used racketeering language in describing a lot of the stuff, and I think it was really brilliantly written. If anybody didn't know, Paul was the author of every aspect of the complaints and all the stuff in there. So when you read, you're reading a brilliant man's writing. But there was language used there that was reminiscent of 2 points. One you talked about earlier in your discussion about who your background is in bankruptcy law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got receivership
Right.
in the lawsuit, and we also have some language for the racketeering side of the equation. And this is an opinion question, because your lawsuit is not the lawsuit that you're currently arguing right now is a civil rights lawsuit. It's a civil lawsuit. It's not a criminal lawsuit.
Correct.
But in your opinion, based upon the activities you've seen, is there enough evidence for an investigator to come in and start looking to see if crimes were actually committed?
Well, yeah, I mean,
racketeering type crimes.
the thing that shocks me, and this may be interesting to some of the viewers / listeners. I don't know. Is this going on
both,
video
both.
too?
The
Okay.
audio and video.
Okay, so, the judge in our original case, and I didn't really finish what happened. You asked me the status of so I kind of have to back up a little bit before I answer this question. So, the Judge Alan Albright, who is he's the judge presiding over both of the lawsuits, one of which the plaintiffs that I represent, and I am no longer in that lawsuit.
Right.
That the judge tried to sua sponte, which means of his own motion, dismiss that case and identified some things that he thought was wrong with it. So I had to write an amended complaint, because when I read that, I thought, well, that's wrong. It was obviously wrong, but maybe the judge misunderstands, or the clerk or whoever that read it misunderstands what we're trying to argue. So I did an amended complaint. And this was just amazing. About 2 days before the amended complaint, I needed to file it to avoid the dismissal. I was listening to a podcast called War Room Pandemic. That's Steve Bannon's podcast. Mm-hmm. And it's a fantastic podcast, in my opinion. But they were talking about this, this article by Molly Ball called "The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election." And I was listening to them talk about it, and I was like, yeah, Time Magazine. Yeah. I was like, or I guess it's just Time now. I guess they dropped the magazine. But I was like, wow, what did they say? So I opened the article, I started reading, and I was just sitting there laughing, because I had been trying to articulate this exact story to the court. And here, lo and behold, a team of journalists.
A publicly available piece of information.
Yeah.
Wow. And tried to make it look like they were trying to save the country instead of...
So you have an admission of conspiracy.
Yeah.
You have an admission, then you have an admission of a conspiracy.
Uh-huh.
Then you have an admission of racketeering involved type of activity.
Yeah.
And with the evidence that's already on the record, because reading this stuff, you show the transaction of money in direct control by Mr. Schumer.
Yep.
And Ms. Pelosi and Mr. McConnell, on both sides of the equation, influencing people to knowingly tell American voters fraudulent statements, correct?
I think that's accurate, yeah.
So that's mail-in wire fraud, correct? As defined by statute.
Yeah, I haven't read those statutes recently, because I don't do a really criminal law.
Mm-hmm.
I have brought a RICO case before in my career. It was a while ago, so I'm not familiar with the exact wording of that statute. But it does seem like, I guess if you're making a public statement and it's to solicit money, which, if you're making a false statement in public to get money for a campaign, that would seem...
That's pretty much the definition of wire or mail fraud, and you look at... So the reason I'm being persistent about this is because, I presented A.G. Barr, documentation before the December 1st statement where he said he saw no fraud or no criminality and so on and so forth, and I'm really upset about this. Yeah, I'm talking with my hands.
in front of the camera.
In front of the camera. How you doing? Hi, people. As a lawyer, directly, do you think there's enough information that if you were the AG of the United States, the Attorney General, if you were the Attorney General of the United States, would you have authorized a criminal investigation based upon the stuff that you've seen so far and the witness testimony that you've read?
Yeah,
Simple question, yes or no?
Well, yes.
Okay, now please explain.
Okay. So, and again, I've said a million times, our lawsuit, it's not that we're not going to introduce some evidence of fraud. We most likely will. It's that the beauty of our lawsuit, it doesn't depend on that. So that's why it's different than these other
that was lawsuits. My next question. Why is this different than all those other lawsuits that have been thrown out?
So I'll answer that next. But, looking back at this election, we had a lot of very, very strange events. I mean, you have to first of all, point out it's just a fact that this is the first election that almost half of the electorate voted by mail-in ballot. And there have been numerous reports, including the bipartisan Carter-Baker report, that describe exactly why mail-in ballots are inherently open to fraudulent schemes. It's just by their nature, they're very difficult to track whether it was a fraudulent ballot or not, because you don't have an election worker there watching the balloting, watching them fill out the ballot. You can't see who is doing it. You can't see where it came from. I mean, so you have to investigate all those things. So it's just very difficult to it's very difficult to uncover a fraudulent scheme through a mail-in ballot situation.
Well, that's why they did it.
Yeah, well, presumably.
Isn't this the first election where more people voted than are registered to vote?
I mean, it appears that way in certain precincts. That for certain. I mean, that's so many reporters have pointed out to me. Well, why would all the judges look the other way? Why is that what you're saying? I'm like, well, look what happened. I don't know how many people remember this, but when the Michigan, it was the Wayne County Election Board decided, those two Republican members said, well, we can't really certify these results because the numbers they don't match up.
Right, and then they got threatened.
And they got threatened by, I saw horrible videos of people that,
outside their houses.
Yeah, outside, we're going to have a mob outside your house and they're called racist and all that kind of stuff. And nobody wants that.
Since we kind of went there,
yeah.
What kind of things have happened to you since you started this? What kind of stuff is, for lack of a better term, the deep state done to shut you down?
Well, I don't. The deep state's kind of an amorphous term, but I can tell you what happened to. I mean, I know what you mean.
I just don't have another word for it.
I know. Yeah.
Amorphous.
Sorry, that's.
He's a lawyer. Anyway, go for it.
It's a vague term.
I'm just a regular citizen. I don't understand his stuff.
Don't pick your nose.
What the hell are you talking about?
That's for those who don't read the dictionary.
Freaking giant woods. How the hell am I supposed to talk to this guy? I speak English.
All right.
Thank you for watching No, It's About the Republic show. And stay tuned for Episode 2, Part 3 with special guest Paul Davis.